This may be the most ridiculous case I've ever seen brought before me, but let's go on the record now as the court recorder. Ready? Okay. So court is now in session. We have before us case number 002, the consumer versus the Lymow 1 robotic mower. Here for the defense is Mandy Shia, co-founder of the Lymow company, one of the people that helped design this thing. So she's definitely qualified, I would say, to speak for this robot. But as I said, there are some charges here, and frankly, you can answer this if you want, but you're being charged with not being innovative enough. Yeah, so I guess, could you speak to that? How do you plead, first of all?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to plead not guilty.
Okay.
And it's something new that I never heard before. It's something new that I never heard before. This thing is not innovative. Okay. Because as far as I understand, people are crazy about it.
Just for the jury's sake, let's go through what are the innovations then?
Okay, I'd like to list a few here. Obviously, we have the treads, which is well optimized and designed for a balance of good traction and grass protection. And that's one thing. And I mean, this thing gives a super good terrain adaptability, climb hills or glide over all kinds of different terrains. And the second thing I'd like to mention is this cutting deck. As you can see, this cutting deck is paired with rotary mulching blades. These blades are not those like little razor blades. They're rotary mulching blades, just like any traditional mower can have. You can see they have high lift teeth here. It doesn't just cut the grass. It also mulches the grass and doesn't leave any messy result after it mows, because all the clippings will be chopped really fine and being spread out across the lawn. It makes you a nice clean cut every single time. And for this deck, not only that, the third thing I want to mention is this deck is a floating deck. What makes this nice is when you have uneven terrain, this floating deck can adapt to the terrain and makes a very even, nice even cut. It doesn't leave any long areas or doesn't scalp anything when it's going over like a little bump or anything, because this thing can adapt to the terrain very smoothly and perfectly. And that's the third thing. And then, of course, the fourth thing is this thing is super powerful. It gives you a super powerful cut, but without high noise. So we manufacture this or engineer this so that it is powerful, but reduce the noise to the minimum levels.
What kind of software were you running? Are there any innovations there that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, of course. So for our localization system, we use RDK with VSLAM, and is a decentralized technology. It doesn't rely on any single sensor. So even if you're under some area that's covered by trees with no RDK signal,
well,
the
VSLAM just for the jury may not be experts in these terms. So I think for their sake, if I could clarify what VSLAM is, it's short for visual simultaneous localization and mapping. Yeah. So essentially, what I believe Mandy is saying is, as this thing drives around the yard, it's actually dynamically mapping your yard to figure out, just like a person would, where it is in relation to its environment. So it's building a map and it's localizing itself on that map. So, and then you mentioned this is almost a fallback with RTK, which is like a precise. RTK stands for real-time kinematics. It's basically a precise form of GPS, but it does have some drawbacks where if you go under like tree canopy and things like that, or solar flare sometimes can throw it off. Then you could potentially have a robot that just has no idea where it is. So I think, is that accurate? Am I?
Yeah, the VSLAM part is exactly what we meant. But one thing I'd like to clarify is that we do not do automatic mapping for this point, because that's on the safe side, because for some safety regulations, because you want to make sure that your robot, respect the boundary perfectly. You don't want it to do anything that out of the boundary. So that's why at this point, we're still encouraging the user to use the app to drive the robot along the perimeter to set that.
That's a good point. So when I say mapping as an engineer, see, okay, yeah, good point. So it doesn't map like, you still have to, like, when you initially set it up, drive around the perimeter, right?
Yeah.
But
It
then,
maps when you drive it along the perimeter. That's the first time setup, and you don't have to do it another time. Just the first time setup, you drive it along the perimeter. Then after that, the robot can localize or position itself on its own with the RDK and the VSLAM technology.
now I think earlier off the record, Mandy and I were talking in chambers, as it were, and I think you indicated, and this was on the phone, I believe, that you do some sort of mapping, like you will map out obstacles, right? So like once you pass it, you'll actually remember that it was there.
Yep.
Is that, like, that's something that a lot of people talk about doing, but maybe could you elaborate? Is that a work in progress, or how's that going?
Okay, so the robot can see things. If there is an obstacle, then it's gonna mark it in its map. So it's like this area is already occupied by something. And later on, if it passes by the same area, if it is being removed, then the robot will also update its map with this thing being taken away. So it's dynamic. I mean, it just adapt to the real situation accordingly.
Okay, well, I think I think we've given the jury a lot to chew on. Like I said, this is almost a joke of a charge, not being innovative enough. But they are serious charges, so we do have to, not be biased in terms of the cases that we hear and not hear. But I think the court is now adjourned on this matter, case number 002, on the charge of the Lymow 1 robotic mower not being innovative enough. I will leave it now to the jury to deliberate and decide guilty, not guilty, or undecided. And then we'll revisit this topic as needed. So, court is now adjourned. We will move on to the next matter.